Now I'm a slimmer version of myself. I've found that.
Which you look fantastic, by the way. You've done so well. All right. So here's one that it might be close to the heart. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
That's an absolute no.
Oh, thank God. Who puts a dessert on a pizza? Pineapple should never be hot.
Only time you have hot fruit is with custard and ice cream and a pie. That's the end of it. No more discussion. And our relationship is over if you start fucking with that. I just can't get over people. I don't trust people that put pineapple on a pizza. It's just weird. Okay, so next question. Who would play you in a movie about your life? Who would play me? Oh, there's this bloke from I think he's called The Wedding Ringer, not The Wedding Singer, that looks identical to me. Pagey used to pick him up. If you want someone to look a bit like me, Jabba the Hutt, people would have said back in the day. I would now say, mate, like a John Belushi or something like that, I reckon would be perfect. You know what I mean? I
think John Belushi would be perfect, yeah. It's actually a pretty good choice. Yeah. John Belushi.
Thank you.
By the way, the lumberjack photo shoot you had in episode 1, the beard suits you, Gus. The beard absolutely suits you.
I've got that photograph as my photograph on my phone of myself. I love that photo, but my missus just thought it was terrible, and my daughters bagged the shit out of me for it. So it never got much of a run, but I like it as well.
Full beard, mate. Full beard made you look completely different, made you look younger, made you look awesome. But I'm all for the beard, mate.
Well, you look like Georgie Rose. So,
really? Everyone, you know what? You know what I mostly get when I wear the hat like this? I get Kyle Sandilands.
Oh, yeah. I can see that too now, especially with the microphone in front of you and stuff, yeah.
I'm just less of a twat.
Have you got his cash?
I wish. All right, so would you rather to always be able to speak your mind, like you can only speak what's on your mind, so you have no filter, or never to speak again?
Oh, speak on my mind. I'm never happier than when I'm not worrying about my P's and Q's, and I find it hard sometimes.
You're on the right show.
Place to be. I find it sometimes very difficult because you've got to be a little bit political at times and a bit worry about your P's and Q's, especially when you're running a foundation and so forth. And there's so many people involved in it. But yeah, when I'm passionate and truthful, that's when I feel real and alive.
If your 5-year-old self would inhabit your body now, what would your 5-year-old self do first?
Well, I remember as a 5-year-old, all I wanted to do was eat sweets, eat macas. I remember we lived in Guam because my dad was setting up Travelodge hotels around the world. So we lived in Tokyo when I was a 5-year-old. And we used to go to a place called Guam, which is where the Americans used to land their big bombers in when they were doing Vietnam. And I remember that really, really distinctly. And I used to just go every couple of days to the local place called McDonald's. It was a new family restaurant. So as a 5-year-old, it would say, do not enjoy those cheesies as much as you did because it's going to cause you all sorts of drama later in life. I wouldn't have had that love affair that I have with the Golden Arches, which I haven't been to, Chrissy, for well over nearly 3 months now. So that's what I tell myself.
Have they
fell in love,
bankruptcy yet?
I reckon
Chip Nugget Jr. is going to be very, very upset.
Not happy, yeah. I'm losing my statue at the headquarters in Dallas.
All right, so if you had to make a cashier at a shop laugh or feel uncomfortable, what 3 items would you buy?
Dildo, lube, and massive condoms. So extra large condoms. Which, believe me, I've never been able to wear, so don't worry about that.
That's right. Me and you both, mate. Me and you both. All right, so if you were arrested...
We're gentle lovers, mate. We're lovers, not fighters, but, slowly but surely, we'll get there.
That's it. I'm a lover whenever my wife says I am.
Yeah, fair enough.
If you were arrested with no explanation, what would your friends and family think you did?
That's a great question. Chris, I've done 1,000 interviews in my time. I've never been asked any of these questions. That's really, really good. That's a great question. Let me think about it. What would they think I would do? Oh, probably public nudity.
Oh, I just got the flashback of the naked yoga.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, no, I don't like wearing clothes.
No,
as a general rule.
I just love how they're all like the way they filmed it was it made you look completely naked with everybody else until you put your head down and you saw you're wearing underwear and you're like, bet you're glad I'm wearing undies now.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, thank God.
Oh, jeez, wouldn't want to put you through it. Well, that was actually, I've always been happy to have a laugh at myself, and I think that was always a bit my role in the grill team and on telly, sort of fish out of water type situations, Chris. But that one, because I was a bit older and my kids were a bit older, and the show was so much more, like heart and soul emotion, I actually made a family decision to all sit down and say, this is what they'd like me to do. Do you want me to go completely naked or not? And it was, my daughters just said, Dad, we're sort of 14 and 16 now. We don't want that, all our friends, and they're going to watch it. And, so it was the first time I ever sort of checked in with them, if you like, or anything. Cause normally I'd just be up for whatever, but that was the first time. So that's the reason. But that morning, Chris, I was going to be naked. And then I went, no, I'm just going to check with the kids and my wife. And they voted 4-1 against me being naked. So that's why we made that decision. And in the end, I think it was probably right for my family, but I'm not sure if it was right for the show, or it was right for those group of blokes that I was with for me not to be completely committed with them. But, it is what it is.
I actually thought it was perfect because you said at the start you weren't comfortable. You made that very clear, and it showed that you, in a mental way, it showed you still were in an uncomfortable situation, and you took a stance on doing something, and it showed people, well, if I'm in an uncomfortable situation, I don't always have to do what everyone else is doing. That's the way I took out of it anyway.
Okay, that's nice. Thanks for sharing that. Thanks. I hadn't thought of it like that. Thanks.
I mean, if I was in there, I'd want to be in the front row, definitely not in the second or the third row. It's too many arseholes to be looking in front of you.
Good man.
All right, Gussie, on the back of naked yoga, what's the worst smell you've ever smelt?
Look, by far, there's some smells in India when I did an Aussie Goes Bolly, and then I went back and did the Commonwealth Games in Delhi in 2010. So I went to India a few times, quite back to back, and I love that country, don't get me wrong, but there was a marketplace down south that we went to one day, and it was near the end of the day, and some fish hadn't been sold and stuff. And you combine that with all this other stuff that goes on in that village that necessarily wasn't probably, wouldn't have passed any health and safety regulations anyway. That was like literally when you walk in somewhere and your eyes are running and you have to put your hand over your nose and stuff. I remember that once. That wasn't pleasant.
All right, so I've never asked this question to anybody. If aliens from another planet landed and you were the first person they contacted and they asked you to sum up humanity in one sentence, what would it be?
A bunch of people that look like me and look like that girl over there doing their absolute best to fuck it all up. Or I'd say something like, a bunch of people doing their best just to get through stuff and learning all the time and having a crack. And I certainly feel the last 5 years since Man Up, Chris, my life has improved immensely because I've educated myself on stuff and I'm a better person. I give people the benefit of the doubt more. I'm less judgmental around people and stuff. I lived in a bubble for so long. So I would try to explain that to the aliens, but in a sentence, that's a very difficult one to try to answer. But, I think we do bumble our way through pretty good with lots of stuff to improve on, and we just need to keep going.
Now, you've got a lot of famous friends and you've been around a lot of famous people. But I want to ask, who's been that one celebrity that you've absolutely been starstruck, like almost nervous or hard to talk to because you followed them or you've been, Who has it been?
Chris, I had a really great night with Jacko in Los Angeles. I actually flew from Sydney to Los Angeles, and Jacko was singing at Kirk Douglas's 100th birthday party at the Hollywood Bowl in LA. And Jacko and I turned up, and he had to do the red carpet for this party. And he just said, come along with him. And in fact, they thought that I was his security, because I remember Blake came down, he was sort of talking into his wrist going, oh, Mr. Jackman's got his own personal security. And Jacko was talking to, Entertainment Tonight or something. He didn't hear it. And I just chuckled to myself, because I've never thrown a punch in anger ever. I'd be the worst. I'd be the first bloke to run away. But anyway, we had the whole long line. It was maybe a 50 or 60 metre red carpet. Anyway, we got into the room, and Jacko had to go and get himself organised for singing. So he went into this little dressing room where he plugged in a kettle, and he gets the steam, which sort of, starts getting and goes through the motions of the scales and getting himself warmed up with the steam going through the nose and clearing, his passages and so forth. So he introduced me to Michael Douglas as he was about to go into this dressing room. And Michael was very thankful that Jacko was there to sing the song for his father. And when Jacko explained, this is my best mate, I've known him since the age of 5, Michael was very kind to me, and he said, why don't we go and have a drink? So we walked over to this bar, and I looked over, and George Clooney was there, and Michael Douglas was giving me a drink. He then said, I'm going to go and meet some other people, so I'll leave you to it. And I said, Michael, lovely to meet you. Thank you very much. And by the way, Michael, thank you very much for your private jet that we're going to jump on later tonight to take us back to New York, because of my foundation, Gotcha4Life, has got a breakfast tomorrow with you in New York, and we need to be there. So thank you for making that all happen. And he's like, oh, no problem at all. I've given you the big plane. I'm getting Nobu delivered to the tarmac before you leave. I mean, I'm sitting there with my head spinning, right? So I'm sitting there at the bar, and I'm drinking a whiskey. George Clooney walks over with his missus, and she's easy on the eye. And I'm there going, fuck me, Dad, like, what's going on here? Is he going to say good day and whatever? So he goes, hello, how are you? And I said, g'day, George, how are you? And he introduced us to his missus, and he goes, who are you? And I said, oh, I'm Hugh Jackman's best mate. He's singing tonight. And he goes, oh, yeah, how you going? And he said, what are you drinking? I said, I'm having a scotch. He goes, oh, you got to get some of my tequila, mate. So he's had tequila, which is now, he sold for over $1 billion. It's the number one tequila in the world. He gives me his glass, Chris. I sip out of his glass and go, oh, that's really smooth. I was expecting tequila to be really like, And I said, that's great. And so he takes my scotch, gives it back to the barman and says, pour him one of these. So then George, me and his missus are chatting away. And then Michael comes over, and then about 2 or 3 minutes later, Jacko, who's done his warm-up, he comes over, and we are all just chatting away. And I'm like, this is very, very cool. Like, I'm talking to Michael Douglas, one of the greats, George Clooney, his missus, Jacko. We're just having a drink. And I wasn't tongue-tied at all, but it was just one of those magical sort of 10 or 15 minutes. And then Jacko went on, performed. We then had a car waiting for us after that, whisked us off to this private airport, jumped in the plane, Nobu, we had these drinks called the Greyhound on the plane, which was like vodka and grapefruit juice and ice. And we just hammered those down for 5 hours, got off the plane, straight to the breakfast for Jacko, and it was unreal. And then that afternoon, we actually went to the Jets, New York Jets versus the Seattle Seahawks, and sat in the owner's box. So I'm like, this is a pretty good weekend. This is not my normal weekend. You get one of those every now and again with Jacko. But as a general rule, I like to spend time with him away from all that sort of stuff. Because I just want him, as Jacko, not he doesn't have to put on his fronts and airs and graces with me,
I love that. Just talking about Jacko, I've had a few guests on my podcast, and I've asked them a few questions like, "Who's your celebrity crush?" And most of them have been men, and most of their celebrity crushes has been Hugh Jackman.
He's probably all right.
He's probably my second.
He's a quality human being.
He's probably my second man crush. My first one is Clive Owen. I don't know what it is about Clive Owen. I just
goes all right, Clive.
Goes all right.
Irishman, right?
Welsh.
Is he Irish or Welsh?
He's Welsh.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure if he got to know you, Chris, you would be his as well, brother.
I'm not a bad looking cat. I mean, about a 5 or 6.
Hey, mate.